Hey guys, welcome back to Wick's Garage episode 10. I am your host, Dwayne Wick. This week, guys, I'm going to show you my custom ITB intake setup for my 3.4 engine build, as well as PMO 50s. A friend brought these over, so I'm going to take you through the pluses and minuses for both custom intake systems for Porsche motors. I think you guys will find that interesting. So let's get right to it. All right, guys, so last year I picked up a 3.2 Carrera motor in '87. Once I got the motor, I completely split it apart. And now I'm cleaning the case. It's over at a machine shop right now. Crank needs work. I also need to buy pistons and cylinders still. I'm also gonna get new rods. So originally, when I bought that motor, I was gonna do a Euro 3.2, which just means to change out the US pistons for the Euro pistons, a little higher compression. But I've been leaning toward the 3.4. I think it's just a better build overall. It's gonna give me a little bit more horsepower, a little more displacement. When I was gonna do the 3.2 Euro build, I found this setup. This is somebody's homebrew GSXR Suzuki 1000 sport bike throttle bodies. This is what the throttle body looks like off the motorbike. There's usually 4 of them in a bank on each bike. What's great about these is that they're approximately the right size for a Carrera motor. The bottom of the throttle body is 41 millimeter inside diameter, and that's the same as my 3.2 Carrera heads. The top is closer to 48, I believe. And the top is actually closer to 50 millimeters. And then I have these custom velocity stacks that go on top, go from that 50 to, let's see what these are, 64. So it opens up quite a bit at the top of this velocity stack. And the whole point of a velocity stack is to increase airspeed as it enters into the throttle body, to my knowledge. Now, the big advantage to using a Suzuki sport bike throttle body is cost. I mean, you can pick up a set of these for $100 on eBay. And usually that comes with the injectors. The gentleman that I purchased this kit from put a lot of time and money and research into figuring it out. He ended up selling his entire project, the car, his motor, all the custom intake stuff that he had. And so I picked up this almost complete kit for pennies on the dollar. We'll talk a little bit about the cost difference between like PMOs and this custom setup. He already had the custom-made velocity stacks and these custom manifolds, which are designed specifically for 3.2 head. It uses a Porsche rubber coupler. Typically on ITBs, you would use a manifold such as this to go from your 3 heads on one side of your engine closer together so that the independent throttle bodies are all next to each other, so that the butterflies can all have the same linkage, so they will open easily. Now, the only drawback to this is that the middle one is a straight shot, whereas the side ones are air and fuel is moving down at an angle. There's debate as to whether or not that really affects anything. Personally, I prefer the straight shot of this design. The air, the fuel, it's going straight down into the motor on each one. The drawback to this design is that I now have to engineer a bridge between the linkage. All right, ignition wise, I've got a Bosch coil, and the idea is to mount it back here in the back. Now, this is for single plug. I am going to run a dual plug, so I'm going to buy a second one of these and just have them mounted right next to each other. The wires will run down the sides here, and then I think 2 holes in the engine tin on the back with grommets down to underneath the engine for the bottom. Some of the other components I have are a Rothsport 60-in-1 timing wheel that goes along with this VR sensor, which will mount where the stock distributor mounts. So that reads along here, and when you get to the gap, that tells the computer that is where top dead center is. A map sensor, so air will come into the manifold and then into this sensor. Ignition module, basically this is like a contact breaker between the ignition and the coil. If you had old school points like I have on my 75, this is an electronic solution, whereas points are a mechanical solution to make a break between the coil and the ignition. So that goes with the coil. Micro Squirt 2 in a, Mega Squirt 2 in a Micro Squirt form factor. So that's the Micro Squirt. These are the bands that I had Cerakoted the body color that go around the rubber that holds the manifold to the throttle body itself. So everything's kind of color coordinated there. So these are the GSXR injectors. Trying to figure out whether or not they're going to be enough for this engine. I think they are, which would be nice because they plug right in. Otherwise, you do have to machine out the throttle body to accept like a Bosch injector. The nice thing about this is it's already, you know, fits right on there, and the GSXR comes with these little plastic fuel rails that plug into the throttle body as well as the fuel injector. Now, to connect these to the next one, you typically have this pipe with an O-ring, and that goes in between the fuel, the plastic fuel manifold, I guess you could call it, to the next one. Now, normally they're right next to each other, so I need to figure out a solution to make a longer one of these. Probably just have somebody at a machine shop make them for me, because I think using these might be a pretty good solution. Otherwise, I'll have to get a fuel rail, off the shelf fuel rail system, and then figure out a way to mount it to these. So that's one engineering thing I have to do. And then the other thing I was going to do is make a spacer, aluminum spacer that fits between these. It's nice to have them all tied together just for rigidity. Well, this whole motor is going to be shaking. Okay, also have this intake air temperature sensor. Normally this is mounted up, I believe, somewhere up here in the air filter configuration, but I'm not doing that. I'm actually running these T-strainer style custom covers. Just a rubber lip here. These just go right on the velocity stacks, snap right on, keeping particles out of the engine. The GSXR throttle bodies come with a motorcycle throttle cable mounting system. That's what this is here. Thought I would go ahead and just use that. Why re-engineer linkage when I can just go ahead and mount up the original way it was designed. To get them Cerakoted, I did have to disassemble them. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put a little lube on these. So I like this Tri-Flow lubricant. I think it'll hold up to the heat too. I think this goes like this actually. Slides right in there. And the adjuster and linkage to the next throttle body. A lock washer and a nut. Just gonna hand tighten that for now. And then we gotta put the valve back in, of course. Just kind of slides down in there. More staining on it is down, I think. We'll go with that. Of course, getting it centered is easier said than done. And I need to make sure these don't fall out and into the engine. So I'm going to put a little red, which is the strongest of the thread lockers, right on the screws here. Keep them from falling out would be prudent. Okay. Now we just gotta get them in carefully in the hole there. Don't need a whole lot of thread locker. Okay. I'm gonna get it in there nice and snug now. Not too snug, I don't want to strip it. You want to compare it to another one, see how much tension we have. Okay, it's been a while since I've disassembled these, and there was a bit of a learning curve to remember where everything went. Getting the butterfly valves back in properly. Took a little bit. There's a beveled area that the screw only goes in one way, and they go in upside down, which is a little bit scary. So I got red Loctite on there, and getting that disc centered in there properly is important. This is with the injector and the Gixxer kind of fuel rail system plugged onto there. So actually had my mock-up a little bit backwards. The 1, 2, and 3, the motorcycle cable will go around this and through this bracket and pull to open, and then you can adjust it here with this little screw. So that'll actually go on the back side of number 3. So yeah, I think I'm making a little progress, kind of getting it back together. It's going to take some engineering to get it to work, but I think it'll be cool. So we'll see. All right, guys. I also have here a brand new set of PMO 50mm independent throttle bodies. Absolute works of art. This is the fuel rail here. You got obviously your 3 independent throttle bodies. So these are just loosely on there because this rain hat air filter plate goes in between the velocity stacks there, and then of course you put your air cleaner on, air filter, and then on top of that would go the rain hat. The rain hat obviously goes on there, protects from any water coming down through the back grille. You don't want water in your engine, of course. Anyway, so I thought it'd be interesting to show you guys, because this represents the extreme opposite in terms of build price. We have a homebrew setup here. I've got about $1,200 in it. Just the ITBs from PMO, I think this retails for the 50s, I think it's $4,600. It does come with pretty much everything you need in terms of the ITBs themselves. We have here the nice yellow zinc throttle linkage that goes in between the two, as well as the rest of the linkage here, nicely bubble wrapped. We got your mounting studs for the throttle bodies to the manifolds. Got a vacuum manifold and kit with all the little hardware that you need. Wiring harness plug there. Of course, some of the O-rings and springs that you need to set up the linkage. So that's the PMO kit. Of course, the manifolds are very nice. This is for a 3.8, a 993 motor. Obviously super high quality, very, very nice. Again, with this, you still need an engine management system to go with your electronic fuel injection. Resant is a company that offers a complete system. They have a wiring harness. They have the AEM-based computer system that you would need to tell the fuel injectors when to inject the fuel. And then you also need an injection, you also need an ignition setup to go along with this. So all in all, you're looking to spend about between $10,000 and $15,000 for a top-of-the-line PMO Resant EFI setup for your air-cooled motor. With my setup, I'm going to try to keep it under $2,000. I would love to go with the PMO. I'm not quite at that level of build yet. I can always upgrade to this later. I think for the time being, I've already paid for this system. Of course, this one is my buddy's. So that is pretty much the difference between the two systems. If I were to get PMOs, I would probably get I think they're 46. They sell 3 sizes, 42, 46, and 50, I believe. Well, these are the 50s, obviously. So depending on your engine, all the way from a 2.2, 2.7, 3.0, 3.2, 3.4, and up. All right, guys, thanks for watching this week's episode of Wick's Garage. I want to thank AASE Sales, as always. Link in the description. Guys, there's a lot of really cool race parts and other hard-to-find parts over at that website, so definitely check it out. Also want to thank TI Porsche Products, as always. Link in the description. Next week, guys, I'm going to show you the Recaro pole position ABE race seats that I picked up, as well as the custom inserts that I'm doing for these seats. I think you guys will find that cool. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you guys next week.